Hello, and welcome back to Dr. Freda's Power Session, where we stop performing growth and start living it. I'm Dr. Freda, and this is a space for real conversations about self trust, emotional intelligence, and what it actually takes to lead yourself through life and love. Here, we don't rush healing, we don't sugarcoat truth and we don't confuse awareness with transformation. Power isn't about having it all together, it's about being honest enough to show up differently with yourself first. So every session is an invitation to pause, reflect, and choose alignment over autopilot. So now let's get into today's power session. In today's power session, we are talking about when your inner child doesn't trust you. What happens when the part of you that learned to survive doesn't believe adult you will protect it? I have the distinct honor to have Carolina Bracco, a licensed clinical social worker of inner path therapy, here with me today. And just a little bit about Carolina. As a childhood trauma survivor, she grew up in a dysfunctional home in Brazil, but through deep therapy, she was able to heal, reconnect with herself, and grow in ways she never thought was possible. And through this journey, it profoundly transformed her. And now she has dedicated herself, her work, and her mission to helping others heal from similar wounds because she deeply understands what her clients are going through. She is also passionate about guiding her clients and new clients towards empowerment and self love without needing their parents' approval. So, in today's session, Carolina and I will be exploring what happens when that part of you learn to survive and doesn't trust that part of you to make decisions in your adulthood. We're going to talk about self betrayal, emotional safety, and how to trust yourself is a rebuilding process and not through just intention, but through consistency. So, without further ado, I want to welcome Carolina Bracco.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
How are you today?
Doing great. I'm excited to be here and I appreciate the opportunity to talk in your podcast. It's so nice.
Oh my goodness. Now, are you out of Colorado?
Yes.
Okay. And but you do see clients all over the world, correct? Like via Zoom and Teams?
I see clients in Colorado, Texas, and Virginia at the moment because of my
Wow.
license. Yeah, there's some
Wow.
licensure stuff, procedures. Only these three states for now, but I'm planning to expand more.
Wow, but that is amazing. And might I add, Carolina, when I went through my divorce, it was very emotionally draining and tough. And I must say, out of all the therapists, I resonated more with my LCSW because her approach was so, I would say her bedside manner was just so motherly, if that makes sense. And it was like a understanding tough love, if you will. But and one of my best friends is an LCSW, and I absolutely love you all's dedication and work and your approach to helping clients. So, but again, thank you for joining me. And I do want to start off by just simply asking you to just level set from a clinical perspective. How would you define the inner child in adult emotional functioning?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the inner child, so there are many theories about this, but the inner child is our emotional part.
Mm,
The adult self is our logical part, the part that makes decisions, that's more
Mhm.
rational, that understands things. There's that part of us that's stronger, that knows the truth. And the inner child is that little part of us that got stuck in the past
Mhm.
with trauma.
Mm.
And I should say that I would say that trauma happens when you are alone with your own feelings and you don't know what's going
Mm.
on. You're just alone there with yourself. You don't know. You don't have any guidance. So that age gets stuck inside
Mhm.
your body. That translates with feelings, triggers that come up, triggers some wounds inside. So that child is that age in us that's still frozen there, feeling the feelings alone.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is it a certain age that that inner child expands to, or does it stop like at 16, 17, or does it have an age parameter?
Well, it does. It does. So since I would say even since birth. So
Mm.
when you're newborn,
Yeah.
until let's say your brain matures till you're like 21 fully.
Mhm.
So I'd say like 18. So from 0 to
Mhm.
like 18, you do have still that developmental process going on in your brain. So I would
Mhm.
say the inner child in our context would be from 0 to like 17, about that. Because there's an inner teenager too. Alright, but the inner teenager, usually what I see is a result of the inner child. Years feeling
Mm.
anger, sadness. So the teenager years are more like residues of the inner child's feelings from the past. So this is I know it's kind of a complex concept, but I'd
Mhm.
say the earlier, the more traumatic.
Is it because as a child, you're a child, your brain, like you said, your brain is still developing, you're trying to process what is happening or happened to you, and sometimes do you see or do you find in your work that children usually stay stuck because they don't feel safe enough to tell their parents or guardian, or if they do, the guardians don't believe them? What do you see in your practice?
Yeah, this is a interesting, as I see that a lot too.
Mm.
There is a lot of mistrust with
Mm.
the adults, right? Because the child is just feeling the feelings alone, and the caregivers are not paying attention, or they're not attuned to the child, or
Mhm.
punishing the child, not being present, or they can just not. So there's no trust, right? Like if the child tells mom something is happening, let's say a sexual abuse, that happens a lot, where it's happening with the child, and the child tells the caregiver, and the caregiver just doesn't believe them. No, you're making this up. This is not real. You're dreaming.
Mm.
Unfortunately, this happens a lot. So that's when the trust can get broken too,
Yeah.
in that specific circumstance. Like, mom doesn't believe
Mm.
me. She doesn't trust me. I'm not trustworthy. So that child thinks it's something wrong with her. But also, I don't trust mom because she didn't do anything for me. She didn't stand up for
Yeah.
me, for example. So this,
Mm.
yeah,
So it's so many, like, breakdowns from child to parent, child to child with inner self. And who knows? I don't even know what the parent is going through, and maybe, I don't know. I definitely have heard of generational trauma where something happened to the parent, the grandparent, the great grandparent, and now it's happening to the child. But then I would think that if you know that generational trauma, the parent will be more open to believing that child because of what happened to them in their past, I would think. But sometimes that's just not the case. Maybe is that a parent way of protecting themselves from reliving their own trauma?
absolutely. Yeah. That can be a lot of
Mm.
denial, repression. There's a lot of
Yeah.
shame. So the parents, if that happens, right, when it happens a lot actually, the parents is just not willing to see it because it happened to them. So they're having lots of feelings about it. They don't know what to do with it. So the instant reactions being defensive or ignore, this didn't
Mm,
happen because they're denying that incident within themselves. They're still denying
mm.
that there's a lot of shame that they carry about what happened to them. There's no open conversation. They don't know how to deal with it. Yeah. It gets hard
And
on the child.
it does. I just feel like that everyone, because it's so quick, and we're so quick to blame parents or the guardian, and because they're supposed to protect the child or children. And it's just sometimes we forget, like, maybe that parent is going through the same, it's like they're reliving their own trauma and trying to figure it out, but they didn't go to a Carolina to help them through their trauma. So it's just like they're going through the next generation of carrying this trauma on with them, which is unfortunate. And leads me to ask, so why do you think so many adults intellectually understand themselves, and intellectually, I feel sad, or they have somewhat of understanding of emotional intelligence, but yet they still feel emotionally unsafe inside?
Yeah, totally. So healing happens in layers, right? So understanding, having awareness is the first thing. And then we deepen that as we understand what happened to us and we want to change. Sometimes it stops there, right? But we need to go a little deeper. So sometimes a lot of people have understanding of what happened, they have understanding of their feelings, but actually feel the feelings and do the
Mm,
work much more than understand. It's safe to be in the understanding, right? Because when you drop into the feelings, that's when the real process starts and you start
mm,
feeling. The body
yeah,
tells you, and the body feels, and you don't. A lot of the times, you get back to that kid again. You reverse
yeah,
back. What am I doing with this? What do I do? Right. So it's scary to be in the feelings.
yeah,
That's what I found. So understanding, there's a lot of awareness out there, but it's necessary to deepen more of the understanding
mhm,
and going to the body and really
mm,
taking care of that child. And yeah, so there's that. I see that a lot. It's all layers. It's all, the healing
yes.
happens in layers for sure.
Yeah, I know. I tell my clients, you can't go around, you can't ignore, you literally have to go through whatever you are going through, to get on the other side. Because like you said, it's very uncomfortable. We both did it. It's uncomfortable, it's scary. Sometimes it could be very lonely, but I promise you, 10 times out of 10, you're gonna come out, emerge on the other side a different person, a stronger person, a transformed person. But it's so uncomfortable to actually do the work. And like you said, is we could be aware, like, oh, that triggers me. Cause that's a hot button word. Everyone using the word trigger, right? That triggers me. But then we never go deep beyond that, like you said, well, why does it trigger you? What is the root cause to that? And sometimes if you bury that trauma, that memory or memories for so long, sometimes you can disassociate from that, and you really don't know, like, I don't know where it's coming from, you know? And I had to do a lot of inner healing from in utero. When I was before I was even born, my mom was carrying me, had her own trauma that she was going through emotionally, and I didn't even know years later that I was acting out of things that I don't even know where this is coming from, and I really did it. I did
Wow.
not know, because some of the things that I was saying, it never happened to me personally. And so I had to go back, and I did sessions and sessions, um, of regressions that led me back to my mother's womb. And I didn't even realize that I had picked up so many things from just in utero. And I was just,
Wow.
I cried for her. I cried for myself. And it was very, it was a relief for me. It was a relief, because I didn't even know that I was carrying weight that wasn't mine, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And that happens a lot too. Because when we're in the mom's eater, like we're absorbing everything, like the not only the
Yes.
nutrients itself, but the energy and all
Yes.
the emotional state from mom. Totally. Yeah, that is accurate. I can understand that. Yeah.
Yes, yes. But that leads me to ask, so what kind of childhood experiences, I know you talked about it a little bit earlier, but what kind of childhood experiences tend to create an inner child that doesn't trust the adult self in your
Yeah.
practice or your line of work, whatever you notice?
What I notice is the childhood experiences that are related to caregivers inconsistency,
Mm,
starting from birth, even like since we're talking about that before.
mm,
For example, a baby waiting in the crib for hours and hours. The caregiver
mm,
comes in, mom comes in to feed it and then forgets about it or just let it cry it out. That can create some sort of anxiety in the child. And the child might notice, okay, mom is coming. Of course, they don't think that way, but they feel it's like a feeling. Okay, mom comes like here and there. She doesn't come here often, right? I don't sense that warmth consistently.
mm,
Mistrust already happens there, but
mm,
that is broken for the baby, right? So it starts there, that childhood experience in birth, like when you're a newborn, an infant, when the caregiver doesn't attune to your feelings. It's just a very basic example too, is that when the baby is with the parent and the parents nowadays it's phones, right? Technology. So the parent's always on the phone and not paying attention to the baby, not looking in the baby's eyes when they're feeding them or when they're just around them. That can create some sort of emptiness too. That a lot of times when we're adults, we're like, where's that coming from? I don't know. Like in your experience, right? Like
yeah,
where is
yep.
that and it's hard to pinpoint,
Mhm.
and that's why I do notice this in my line of work that a lot of people don't know where that's coming from, and when we go deep, it's that, infant response, like, "Okay, I'm seeing a baby, I'm noticing, I'm sensing, I'm feeling out of control, I'm feeling a lot of anxiety, and I feel really tiny."
Mhm. Mm,
So, it goes back there, and there's a yeah, so to start with the infancy part,
mhm.
that we talked about is that not having the caregiver looking in the eyes, attending to feelings, not holding them, not being there for them when they cry. Yeah, attending to them because again, they cry. So that's the only way they can communicate.
Yeah.
So that's one childhood experience with infants. Neglect is another one too. Infants, but also this can happen with any stage of childhood. Neglect, right? Childhood neglect, when the parent is just really not around, or when the parent is around but's not with the child.
Mm,
The parent is just not attuned to the feelings,
mm,
not paying attention, and not providing the necessary basic needs as well, of course. But
mhm,
I'm finding that lack of emotional attunement can cause a lot of damage. Even more than, let's say, when a child doesn't have the basic needs met. Because the emotional attunement tells a lot about the child's like mental health.
mhm,
If they are alone, then it's like they feel in their body that okay, I'm in the wild alone. We're
mm,
animals, we're mammals, right? So it's like where's my group? Where is everybody? Where's the pack?
mhm,
I'm gonna die here. So basically, it feels like death if you're alone by yourself a lot growing up. That's
mm,
a childhood experience that I witness a lot. Neglect, emotional neglect, mostly, but also, yeah, engulfment too when the child is being controlled. Highly
mm,
criticized criticism.
mm,
When children experience a lot of criticism growing up constantly, they start doubting themselves. They
mm,
think that they are the wrong ones, that they are not good enough. And then when you become an adult, you doubt yourself, you have low self-esteem because it's like because the voice of your parents are inside of your head telling you you're not good enough. You have to do more. You have to do more.
mhm,
But criticism is another one too.
mm,
Not feeling like you don't matter. I hear this a
mm,
lot, like having experiences in childhood that you feel like you don't matter. that you're invisible, that you are just not, yeah, that you're not enough, that nobody's paying attention, nobody cares. That can happen a lot too. I hear that a lot, quite a lot. But these are the most, yes, sorry, I then go back a bit with the control parts. Uh, Parents that are too controlling, wants to decide everything for the child. Of course, parents have to decide things for the child, have to
Mhm,
set boundaries, healthy boundaries.
mhm,
But when the child is engulfed, watched 24/7 and just feeling like I can't do anything,
mhm,
right, doesn't have the autonomy, independency, they have to stay home all the time, that can also damage their own autonomy. So if the
mhm,
child doesn't have autonomy growing up, if they don't have the bits of like, which kind of color of clothes do you want today? Starting small like
mm,
that, right? Or what kind of religion you're going to follow.
mm.
So that can also be smothering, I would say, and yeah, that kills your autonomy growing up. Yeah, there's so much to say about that, though.
Yeah, I know. You know what? I'm curious because I last season on my podcast, I talked about attachment styles, and I briefly talked about in your formidable years, and and you made some good points when, especially when you were saying when the baby is just being neglected and they don't know when they're going to be tended to, it creates this anxious like bubble inside of them because they don't know when the other shoe is going to drop out.
Yeah.
They don't know when their guardian or parent is going to leave, and sometimes they grow up and they attract what they don't want usually in a partner because it's familiar to them,
Yeah.
and then it just recreate those same anxious feelings that I'm not being, I'm not getting what I need emotionally in this relationship, and they're not showing up for myself, but they still continue to attract the same type of person in different suit. But and I always tell my clients, it's like muscle memory. It's an emotional memory, you kind of fall back or default to what is familiar to you until you don't. And that's where the transformation comes in. But I love that. But so do you think that is it one big traumatic moment or more just subtle traumatic moments with repeated experience? Which one you think is usually affect a child into adulthood more? Is it one like just overall arching traumatic experience or just smaller experiences throughout their lives or throughout their formidable years?
Yeah. So both are painful. However, what I found based on the experience that I have, the subtle ones are the ones that's more impactful.
Mhm.
Because if they keep happening over and over and over, the subtle types of
Mhm.
mistreatment, and if, for example, just quick, very simple example, if mom gives the child the stinky eye, for example, right? Like the
Mm.
eye disapproval eyes
Yeah.
for like the entire childhood, that is way more traumatic. That's gonna affect the child way more because it's happening most of the
Mhm.
time, most days, and that can actually confirm to that child, yes, there's something wrong with me. I am not good enough. I am a bad person because mom is doing that. So the child is just seeing that as like, yeah, I must be really bad because I'm not approved. I'm just not. Yeah. So what I want him to say to is that because the child depends on the approval of the mom to survive.
Mhm.
So there's
Mhm.
a lot of things that parents do to the child that signals survival to the child. Like,
Mm.
yeah, the eyes, like looking with kind eyes is so different from like having mom looking at you every day with the same type of
Mm.
effect. So the subtle ones are the ones I notice like more impactful. That creates CPTSD, complex post-traumatic disorder. I see that a lot. Now, the big ones, the big traumatic events, they're also really hurtful. But what I found with that is that when we do EMDR, the
Mhm.
EMDR is what technique? an approach that I use in therapy
Mhm.
as well. The eye movement desensitization reprocessing, and when we do big trauma treatment using EMDR, it clears. Well,
Mm.
what I found with subtle ones, that takes a little longer. That takes more of different approaches, and EMDR helps too, but I'm finding that other modalities can help with that because it's an attachment breach, like it's an attachment sort of
Mm.
injury that happens. So it takes time to repair that in yourself. That makes sense.
Yes. Yes, that makes sense because it's almost like to your point when it's just subtle and it in a experience, a traumatic experience keeps happening, it almost can feel like you deserve it at some point if it keeps happening or it could you could normalize it where you think where this is normal for this to happen and you sit in that, you know? And unfortunately, that is not. And another thing when you were saying earlier about, the disapproval parent, and I found that those people turn out to be adults who are more like people pleasers,
Hmm.
and they deny themselves because they are trying to chase that approval from their spouse or partner and, their boss, friends, whoever, because they're still carrying that, "Well, my mom, used to criticize me and displeased of everything I did. Nothing I did was good enough. So I'm gonna spend my life trying to please everyone, proving that I am good enough or worthy enough." So, yeah, to your point, I definitely think the subtle traumatic experiences any traumatic experience is horrible. It's horrible. But to your point, I really think that the subtle one, day in, day out, it buries within you where you just like, how do I overcome something that lasted so long? And you can, you really can. But how does emotional going back to the parent or the caregiver, how does the emotional inconsistency, from a caregiver, what you were talking about earlier, show up later in adult decision making? So when you were saying that sometimes, like, if a baby just cries and you alluded to this earlier, but when a baby cries and the parent just don't have time for it, or it's almost like a burden to make time for the child, or if that parent continuously berate the children or their child and nothing's ever good enough, or the parent is just simply emotionally not available, you know, because that in itself is hurtful too. But how does that inconsistency from the caregiver or the parent show up later in adulthood?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So different scenarios. I noticed that, for example, the example of the baby crying,
Mm,
parents not paying attention, baby's anxious, that might create some anxious attachment. So later in life, that person might develop that anxiety with relationships. They might attract partners that are similar to their caregivers because it's
mhm,
familiar. They might
mhm.
attract partners that are abusive because that's familiar. That's what parents were, abusive. So they unconsciously equate abuse as love because that's what love was shown to them.
Yeah.
So it's very common. I noticed that with, yeah, with anxiety too, when the baby was crying, going back to that example, the adult might feel anxious in the relationships. For example, the partner might be giving them love. Might, let's say, a healthy relationship. The partner might be giving them love, what they need, presence, but for that person might never be enough
Mm,
because it's like mom came here in the past, right? Going back to the baby, mom came here once or twice out of 10 times,
yeah,
once or twice. It's not enough. I need more. I
yeah,
need more of that love. And it's natural because the baby needs that love fully.
yeah.
And when they find a partner later, that partner is giving them what they need, but it still feels empty.
Mm,
It's like,
mm,
yeah, it's like kinda like it doesn't fill up. You might have
mm,
people around you, you might have love around you, but it still feels empty because
mhm,
that first infancy experience was not completed, unfortunately.
mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm. You said something right there, Carolina. You said something right then because I have a lot of clients, men and women, who, for whatever reason, nothing is ever satisfying for them. And they can have the marriage, the kids, the white picket fence, the house, the career, and it goes beyond that. It's that's so surface level, it goes beyond that because to your point, that inner child is still not satisfied. The logical, intellectual adult, is satisfied, quote unquote, but that inner child who is still like inside saying, "Hey, I'm still here and I'm still not safe and I'm not happy." And then that inner child is the one who always comes out and have the temper tantrum and blow up and push people away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, wow, that is that is wow. That is a jewel in itself right there. So, with that said, how do you, in your opinion, how does inner child distrust show up in a relationship specifically? I know I just alluded to with the person you were talking about who didn't receive enough love and attention, and then they grow up and get this relationship and nothing is ever good enough or enough. But what are some other behavior or patterns in your line of work you've seen that unhealed inner child show up in adulthood through their actions and decisions?
Yeah, totally. Well, so, correct if I'm wrong, if I'm not answering this one
Yeah.
correctly, but, what's coming to me is the inner critic that we develop.
Mm.
Like, when we have those parents that are more critical,
Mhm.
we have a tendency to have really, really harsh critical voices inside.
Mhm.
And then that voice also tells you that nothing you're doing is enough. Nothing is enough.
Mhm.
Mixed with that baby example, but mixed with all of
Mhm.
it. It's so complex. But the inner critic is the one that drives people to accomplish, accomplish, accomplish. But then
Mhm.
it's just not enough. Like,
Yeah.
no matter what you get in life, it just feels like you have to keep getting. You have to, because there's this emptiness too. Again, going back to that
Mhm.
emptiness. It feels like there's the parents are there inside your head telling you
Yeah.
it's still not good enough.
Yeah.
So I find that also something that's unhealed, and it happens a lot. Self-esteem, yes, that's impacts the self-esteem of the person. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's so funny you say that because when I was married before, I didn't realize how I used to talk to myself, but it was learned because my mom is a amazing woman, but she was very hard on my sister and I, only get the best, you only make A's and a few B's, everything has to be perfect, you achieve, you always do better than the previous generation, and so I grew up thinking like, okay, everything I gotta do has to be perfect. Everything I have to do has to be perfect. And so my ex-husband would hear me talk to myself and I'd be like, why would I would call myself stupid and dumb and why would I do that? And I never even thought that that was not normal. I
Mm.
really did it. And so because it's like I know myself and I'm supposed to be the best. And so my ex-husband was the first one to say, I don't think that's normal. Maybe you should get help for that. And I was like, I don't need any help. Like, I am perfect. I strive for perfection. And it was exhausting. It was emotionally, physically exhausting. And that's when I started back in 2010. No, yeah, 2010. I started getting therapy for that. That inner critic was so unkind
Mhm.
to my adult self. And so that started that healing for the inner child and everything like that. even as maybe 6 years ago, my current partner he made a statement, he said, "You know, you've done this, you've done that. When do you, like, celebrate yourself?" And I'm like, "Celebrate? No, I gotta go to the next thing." Like, it's always the next thing, you know? It's just I don't have time to celebrate. I have to while I'm celebrating, someone else is getting ahead, and I have to do this, and he's just like, take some time for yourself and celebrate. So and and this is all like in the last 6 years that I don't feel guilty for resting. And, if something doesn't get done, something doesn't get done. And it's okay. And then now I'm being more kind to myself versus like, all right, Frida, you have to get this done, time
Huh?
is a ticking. And so, but yeah, that inner critic is so real and people struggle with that, and it doesn't matter who you are. Like, no one is exempt from rejection, trauma, things of that nature, and it's just but again, it's how you move through it and transform and learn from that. And so, with that said, why do you think people repeat patterns they've already healed intellectually from?
Mm. Mhm. Yeah. That's interesting. It's similar to something we also talked about, the layers of healing, right?
Mm,
So a lot of times we think we healed something, and actually we
mm,
did,
yeah.
but there's more. It's another layer.
Hello.
It's something that I also think about is that there's an analogy, right? Like if you are going up the mountain, you're hiking, you're not
Mhm.
losing the elevation, you just keep going.
Yes.
You're just going, and that means the same with healing. Like we do work, right? Like whenever we go to therapy or do something for ourselves to heal, connect with the child, feel the feelings, we are already going up. And then there's another challenge, and there's a bump in that. There's more
Mm.
elevation, right? It's steeper. So there's more layers. It's all layers to it. Totally. Yeah.
So basically, when you think you have overcome one challenge or one layer, there is another layer. It's like an onion. Just
Yes.
keep pulling, and there's more and more to work on, and that's why I think therapy is so imperative in everyone's lives. Like even my nephew, he's been in therapy off and on since he was maybe like 14. That was those teenage years where you just trying to understand self, your emotions. And I always tell my sister, I was like, man, I wish like our parents were just more in tune with, with therapy. But where I come from, like therapy is just obsolete. Like it's just you don't do that. You pray about it and you move on.
Huh?
And it's just like that is so many people that's still hurting. And like you said earlier, who don't feel safe to talk about the uncomfortable. And so that's why we need practitioners like you and myself to help people. And so I love that. I love that. And what can you explain why self-betrayal feels safer than uncertainty?
Yeah. Self betrayal. Let's say in a case of people pleasing.
Mm,
That is a self-betrayal
mm,
behavior because you're pleasing that person. You say no. No, you're sorry. You're saying no or yes, but you're saying something. You're saying yes to that person, but inside is a no. It's still more comfortable, unfortunately. It's more comfortable
mhm,
than actually facing the uncertainty of that response of the future, the
mm,
uncertainty of how that person will respond to you.
mhm,
You know, there's a fears. If I
mhm,
say no, to that person, that friend, then that friend's not gonna talk to me anymore. There's a lot of
mm.
narrative inside our heads, right, that lead us to self-betray.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It's so funny. We rather betray ourselves than the person we are trying to please, which is
Yeah.
it's so funny because we don't want that rejection or like you said, that response from the other person. So, but with that said, how can a person as an adult, aware of what's going on, how can they start rebuilding trust with their inner child? What does that look like in a practical sense? How do they start rebuilding that trust?
Yeah. It's a good question. So there are many pathways. Yeah, of course, I think the first one of the first steps is to recognize that you can do this alone.
Mm,
You need help. A therapist, a coach like you,
mm,
we need help.
mhm.
Because a lot of the times we're trying to sort out things alone, and it's hard because that's what
Yeah.
happened in the past. We were alone. We didn't know how to ask for help. And if we asked for help, we were humiliated. So, of course, I
Mm,
get that too. It's hard to ask for help, but asking for help from a professional to sort it out, like what's happening inside of you. And also, when you are in that process, another phase, when you are in that process, staying with your feelings and really picturing yourself as a child, looking at a picture of yourself, for example, put that picture in your desk or somewhere you can see it and look at it every day, and whenever you're feeling a trigger feeling, know that it's your inner child that's up, that's feeling stuck.
mm,
And remember, sit with yourself and like remember how you looked like growing up. And remember
mm,
that you felt those feelings growing up and how, how were your eyes when you're sad? Like how, just picturing you
mm,
looking at that child and letting it know that you're there for them.
mm,
I think mindfulness to begin with is a good idea.
mm.
Right, like
Yes.
taking a breath. Okay, let me make a conscious decision to be in my body and attend to that baby crying inside of me. Let me be that
Mm,
mom that will carry, that will hold that baby that is crying. Because whenever
mm,
you're feeling sad, upset, it's one of your inner children upset. So
mm,
a mom, it's like a mom or a dad attending to that hurt inside, that hurt child. So really stepping in and sitting with that feeling as if you're sitting with your infant, your 5 year
mm,
old. Like you met really literally picturing you sitting with that kid and letting you know that
mm,
you're here. Like I'm here and you're safe now. It wasn't safe before, but it's safe now. You're with me.
mhm,
I'm your adult self. I come from the future. I am your mother now. It's different now.
mm.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you're actually parenting your inner child, that the parenting that you wish you would have had.
Yeah.
Like the protection you wish you would have had. I love that. And what are some boundaries that can help adults protect their inner child and allow their inner child feel safe? What are some realistic, practical boundaries we can set as an adult for our inner child to be safe?
Yeah. That's a good question. I find that inner children don't like boundaries. I noticed that, right? Like we want things right away. It's the
Mm,
kid or inner children don't want to go to sleep at a certain time.
yeah.
But it's setting the boundaries for ourselves is the most important too. For example, like yeah, like eating healthy or exercise and
Mm,
setting a time, a routine for yourself to do those things to take care of yourself. So self-care is a boundary itself. But
I
the
love that.
children don't like that, right? They want to be free and they want to do
Mhm,
whatever they want or not do anything. But then we're setting a
mhm,
healthy and safe boundary to ourselves through
mhm,
self-care.
mm,
And to other people will be having that sense of protection, right? Like, for example, you can picture yourself as an adult standing up for a little version of you on your side and asserting yourself in a way that, okay, that protects. How can I protect myself in a healthy way? Of course, not protecting myself with walls but we're protecting myself healthily. So asking yourself that question and really picturing a child with you. How would you protect your kids? How would you
mm,
protect that little kid inside?
mm. I love that. And before we wrap up, I wanna ask you one final question. What is one myth in your practice, what is one myth about inner child healing you want to just bust? That is it's a myth, is a fallacy, and is just not correct. What is that one myth about inner child healing you want to dispel?
Yeah, I love this question. It's the myth that it's pretty, right? Like it's gonna be
Mm,
beautiful and cute. Oh, inner child is so precious and so cute. No, it's not, right? It's not, it's gonna be
mm,
messy. The whole process, you will feel the feelings. It's gonna be messy. And it's not all about shallow affirmations. There's a difference
Mm.
between reparenting and just saying affirmations to your inner child. Like, yes, you are enough. Repeating that every day, it's not gonna help because it just feels vague. Okay, enough. What do you mean? Like the child's gonna be like, what? Like I don't even trust you. Like what do you say?
Exactly. Mhm.
But I think the affirmations can help within a context,
Mm.
but not alone itself. You repeating to your inner child every day, "Oh, you're beautiful, you're this, and that, you matter." But there's more to it, right? And so I would say
Mhm.
that you don't heal your inner child just by affirmations. You also it's inner child healing. It's not
Mhm.
it's not a playground. Like it is. It's serious
Mhm.
work and it's deep work. It's messy. You're gonna feel your feelings. You're gonna grieve the parents you didn't
Mm.
have. You're gonna grieve the childhood you didn't have. It's a lot of
Mm.
grief work and inner child work, I noticed. So it's not
Mm.
cute and right, pretty.
Yeah. Yes, yes. I love that. I loved our conversation.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So before we leave, just tell the viewers, the listeners how they can work with you and listen to your wise advice and experiences.
Yeah, you can go to my website. There's tons of free resources there, videos. There's my YouTube channel. If you want to book a consultation, there's a book consultation button on my website. And yeah, I have an Instagram account too. So yeah, thank you.
That is so awesome. All right, listeners, before you all go, I want you all to, everyone to take a moment to check in with yourself. Carolina has dropped a lot of jewels to us today. I thank her. I appreciate her and the work that she's doing to help so many people. But I want everyone who's listening to this podcast to not to judge yourself, not to fix, but just notice what you're feeling from what you've heard today and notice what landed, notice what stirred within yourself, notice what you've been avoiding that quietly asks for your attention today. Because growth doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for your presence. So, power doesn't come from forcing change, it comes from choosing yourself consistently, even when it's uncomfortable. Like Carolina said, going through this experience is going to be uncomfortable, but is it worth it? Yes. Do you need it? Yes. So as you move through the rest of your day today or evening, ask yourself one simple question. What would self trust look like in this moment? Carry that with you. And when you're ready, you can work with someone like you can work with Carolina. She does work beautiful work out of Colorado, Texas, and Virginia. You can book a session with her via her website. Go to her podcast. Like she said, she has a lot of free resources to help you. You can book a session with myself. You can go to my website and look at some of the resources I have provided there as well. And we could continue to work together. This has been Dr. Freda Power Session. And until next time, lead yourself well. See you soon.